everybody, welcome to another midweek What a Hell of a Way news roundup. I'm Francis again with you on both YouTube and this will be getting released out later. So before we jump into everything, I want to cover a few things just because November is going to be weird. I'm going to be traveling for business and then for pleasure kind of back to back. So there's going to be a good 10 days there where I'm not going to be at home. And I thought about, can I record on the road? And I can, but I would have to take my computer with me because my work computer, where I can record on it, but it's too locked down. So I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't be able to do anything, while we're gone. I don't know. So I'm recording this. This is November 6th that I'm recording this on. May or may not be something kind of in between. Now the regular episodes, all that stuff, all the bonus episodes, all those things are still going. I've front loaded a lot of those things. So you're going to be good to go on all of that. It'll all be automatically coming out for you. So, excuse me. Don't worry about the content, this extra content. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different. One thing that I've always been wanting to do was to read the entirety of War is a Racket on microphone. It's a very small pamphlet. There's not that much to it, but for a couple reasons. One, it's an important piece of leftist military history, blah blah blah. But two, I want you guys to see also that the even leftist generals sound just like any other leftist who writes some shit in a zine. That's why I like reading from all these anti-war zines. It's a lot of the same messaging. No matter if it's, like I said, Smedley Butler, two Medals of Honor. Though Medal of Honor pre-World War I is very iffy. It's here's a Medal of Honor for really massacring a bunch of people for us that we didn't really want to deal with. You killed them for us, and we don't have to deal with them now. So thank you. Here's a Medal of Honor. Not going to say that we weren't doing more heroic. We were doing only heroic things after that, but at least the caliber of who gets a Medal of Honor now has gone up a little bit. You gotta machine gun some Nazis or something with stab a guy, kill 40 Nazis with a knife. I don't know. The Medal of Honor, sure. Smedley Butler, questionable. But I've always wanted to read it, so I might do that. I might record that and kind of put that up as the midweek update, just because it's hard to do news. And I've been trying to figure out when and where I want to release this, because we release on Thursdays. I record this on Mondays, and I'm getting better at the editing and getting everything snapped together and put up to where Tom can get to it and he can do what he needs to do. And he goes through it really fast because he doesn't have to do any of the cutting and content. I do all of that for this. So I can get this out a lot faster. That's my hope, is to kind of move maybe to a Tuesday, Friday thing, where Tuesdays is going to be this, Friday is going to be the regular episode. I don't know. Still kind of playing around with it. But what I do want to do is more of this, and I want to make sure that we are doing a lot of this because I really like what I do normally. I've got a lot of really great interviews coming out for the next things. I got Tom Novani. I've got Marty Pfeiffer, who's a nuclear anthropologist, and I've got James Stout, an interview with James Stout coming out. So a lot of really great stuff, but then these are the kind of in between where I get to be a little bit more of me and talk a little bit more about what's going on in the military world that some of you guys may not really know about. Because, right now, there's some bigger things in the news, obviously, but the military's still doing what the military does, still getting around and doing, they're trying to help recruitment. Stuff's always coming out with the military. So I don't want to lose that thread. And also, I don't want to just keep hammering on about Israel and Palestine. If you don't know where I stand with that, it's very confusing. Obviously, it's ceasefire immediately. Stop killing civilians wholesale. And yes, Hamas is bad. Hamas is bad. I get it. Don't fucking genocide people because Hamas is bad. That's it. And we don't need to rehash that. We don't need to continue going on about that. And I don't need to gore porn you guys with all the stuff that comes out. There are plenty of other shows that will do that for you. On this show, however, we're not going to do that. What we're going to talk about here is the A-10 and the F-35. God bless it. The things that we love to really argue about. Teen versus AK-47 is a fun argument to have. I fall on the M16, AR-15 kind of thing because it's Barbie for people with violent fantasies, I guess. You can put anything on. They're very modular and everything. However, I do enjoy the aesthetics of the AK-47, the wood furniture, doing some bakelite stuff. Oh God, I love it. I love that you can add color to it. When you're getting an M16, you got black, you've got FDE, the flat dark earth, which is kind of the brown, coyote brown. And then you've got like shiny purple for some reason. I've seen very like neon pink ones. So aesthetic wise, it looks too much like you're trying to be the Punisher, but like with an AK-47 with one of those wire folding stocks on it, it's some Red Dawn shit, and I guess that's what we're really getting to, is that it looks like Red Dawn. Other arguments that we'd love to have in the military, is there still use for tanks? Is there still use for airborne troops? Is there still use for, I don't know, the M1113s? All fights that we'd love to have. But the F-35 is a new fight. Well, it's not a new fight. The F-35 has been around for a while, but it is the fight that we like to have. And I've had a lot of people on to talk about the F-35. I've had Valerie and Cinna on a while back. She and I talked about it because she specifically writes about military avionics, avionic news and what's going on. She has a much better understanding than I do of the F-35. So she came on. We had a great conversation. I'll have to dig that interview up and link it. But what she was letting me know is that the F-35 is something that nobody has attempted before. It's a lot of, like, obviously, yeah, airplane go fast and shoot bombs. Obviously, we've been doing that for a while, but the F-35 just does different things, and it's multi-role, and it can do multi-role, and sometimes, yes, it catches on fire, and sometimes the VTOL doesn't work. It's a complicated system. Like, it's very hard to do it. Like, you can't. It's not like, your biplanes of the or a Cessna or something like that. The kind of things where the mechanics are a lot easier. That being said, the F-35 is over budget and overcooked and probably mostly unnecessary, but it works and people wanted it. They wanted a 5th gen fighter. We have a 5th gen fighter. And really nobody can go up against it. Like, we shit talk it, but honestly, USA chant, insert USA chant here. We built something that nobody can really fuck with. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that there are not planes that are better than it at other things. The A-10 in this this close air support test that were done years ago, and this is heavily redacted, so we can only pull so much information from this. And this is a story from Defense One. I'll have it linked below. But the A-10, which is a glorious, the A-10 really is more psychological, I think, for most soldiers, because it's a beautiful machine that has been around for a long time. It does one job, and it does it really fucking well. And it did that job so well for so many people that we all have a love for it. And it's also an airframe that was built around a gun. And I'll tell you, it was one of the first airplane models I ever built was an A-10 Warthog. So I love how his engine's sitting up on top because it's for close air up top shooting down. So how does the F-35 stack up against it? So in the report, it says that yes, the A-10 does have better air-to-ground capabilities because that is what it was purpose-built for. The F-35, purpose-built for, jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. So the A-10 works a lot better in the role that it was originally created for, which is we need somebody to come in and shoot these fucking tanks. There's a whole tank column here, fucking gun them down, kill all the tanks, blow them all up. No problem. A-10 can do that all day long. It can fly in. It's got bombs. It's got the GAU-8 on the front nose of it with the 30mm rounds that'll fucking punch through God's face itself. And it sounds so fucking good. Look at this. You want to know why we want to keep the A-10? Because look at that. No other fucking jet. Like, it's slow. It's slow, and it just comes... Like, all the other jets, they're just so fast. F-22, F-30, F-15, 16s, whatever. They're fast. They come in. They're sleek. It's fine. They do jet things. They jet around. This is technically a jet, but it doesn't really do the we're going to go just super fast and breaking sound barriers and getting from point A to point B in 30 seconds. This guy's just going to come in up over the mountains, fucking lay down some fire, drop a couple bombs, and then meander on back out. It is the Midwesterner of airplanes. It kind of just comes up over the valley. Oh, I'm going to squeeze on right through you here. Let me just get on past you and drop a couple bombs, and then we're going to go on home. Just look back, it's like, hey, what's the damage there? Hey, okay, it's time to get home. The old missus got a 7-layer salad going. God bless the A-10. But again, the A-10 does one thing, and it does it really well. And if you were lucky enough, as we were for the last 20 years of war, if you're lucky enough to own the skies rather than having to worry about anti-air defense artillery or having to worry about Scuds or what any of the shit that fires from the surface up to the top, man pads, anything, any of that shit, you don't really have to worry about it. Our pilots didn't have to worry too much about it in Afghanistan. That's why we had so many air assets, because yes, they can be shot down, obviously, but it's not easy to, and they didn't really have the weaponry to do it. Though I am wondering, with all of this new the new drone fighting that they're doing and dropping bombs and stuff, I really wonder if you could fly a drone at a helicopter, and if they could dodge it, if you just kind of detonate it. I don't know. Usually those bombs are dropped. Overall, F-35 is still considered a better airplane because it is multi-role. Of course, that could also be the sunk cost fallacy, going there. I respect the F-35 for what it does. And you can't shit talk it too much because the F-22 only has one kill, and that's a balloon. So the F-35 may never have a chance to actually prove whether it's good or not. So we can always have this argument. Hopefully at some point, hopefully at some point we'll have a war with a peer ally that we get to see the F-35 again. No, hopefully we never see that. And all we ever see is these arguments that we have online about the F-35 versus the A-10. But once again, just a hugely psychological beauty. It's just, and I understand the arguments about getting rid of it, but man, you'd never get me to vote for it. I would anybody else in the Army would string me up if you ever thought about that. And it's not even an Army asset. It's Air Force. It's the Air Force's thing. The Army doesn't really have fixed wing, at least not fixed wing like this. We have rotary wing. You're not going to hear many soldiers say, here's this great thing from the Air Force. Here it is. It's the A-10. So, beautiful, beautiful airplane. Still does what it needs to do, but something very important, it's cheaper. It's really cheap. These are fucking very cheap because they've been around for 30 years. Have you ever, if you're old like me and you remember working on your shitty car, your shitbox car when you were 17, and you could go get an oxygen sensor for $20, and now you work on your shitbox car 25 years later, and everything costs $300, and you can't put it in, somebody else has to do it. So that's the A-10. Let's move on. Next up. The Army suddenly and chaotically told hundreds of soldiers they have to be recruiters immediately. This was a very interesting one that I caught. The only reason I caught it was because I opened up Reddit, and it was I don't subscribe to very many subreddits, so this being one of them, it was a post about, hey, if you got this email, here's what's going on. So basically what the email is saying is that we have a recruiting problem. Obviously, we've talked about it. People don't want to join the Army. People don't want to stay in the Army. Not only that, we have a recruiter problem where if you're not getting enough recruiters to go out and do what they need to do to recruit people, they're going to have a bad time too. Now, a recruiter who gets picked for recruitment duty, and you got to do, it's 1 to 2 years. You go to school for it. You do 1 to 2 years of recruiting. And then you rotate back in doing your normal Army thing. So there's not a dedicated, we are the recruiting people. It's just we pull people and say you're going to be a recruiter now. Drill sergeant school can be very much the same way. Now, obviously people put in to be look, I do want to do these things. Send me to drill sergeant school. Send me to recruitment school. So this isn't a 100, where the fuck did this come from? Nobody was ever going to turn me into a recruiter. So don't think that this was 100% out of the blue. But what ended up happening is at the end of the year, the recruitment pool, it turned out, needed a lot more people. And so there was a automatic thing that went into response, an automatic, part of the computer system, basically. Like, it said, hey, we need 800 recruiters. We're going to send out these 800 emails to these people and say, you got to report for recruitment school. So, not bad. Okay, great. You're going to get recruitment school. But problem is that recruitment school, you have to report in 2 weeks. Now, you don't get people like me, the part-timers, who can just, okay, I'll go. I guess I can sign out from my regular job or whatever. However you have it. Like this is taking active duty people and saying you're no longer doing your job. Now you do this, and if you don't do it, it can be a real blow to your career. If you don't successfully do it, it can be a real blow to your career. So we've got hundreds of guys and gals being told, "Hey, let me." They're being told, come down here. You're going to be recruiters. You have to report in like 2 weeks. Pack up all your shit as fast as you can. Sell the house on the base that you're on because you're going to have to move and because you're going to get placed somewhere to do recruiting. So you and your family are all going to have to move and you all have to do all of this in the next 2 weeks or so. So you can imagine that a lot of people had some fucking problems with this. And you would also think that maybe perhaps they would say, well, let's go ahead and pull this back and work with people to see what we can do. And in some ways they're doing that. But also they still sent out 800 emails and they expect you all motherfuckers to show up. So they're trying to work with people. Because let me tell you something, you're not gonna have better recruitment when your recruiters hate where they're at. Your recruiter got fucked over to be where he's at, and now he's got to go tell other people, you should join the Army. It's great. You never get fucked over to a point where you now had to pull up stakes in fucking JBLM, and now you're in Missouri trying to get high school students to join the military. It's not a good place to be. Only if you like really wanted to do that, which again, I don't really think a lot of people do, but it's good for their career, so that's why people do it. So anyway, that sucks for those guys, and hopefully they're gonna be okay. It's hard to say with the Army sometimes. It's hard to say because it depends on the command, depends on the recruitment, depends on all that shit. So I know that it sucks. It was a very small amount of people, though. It was like 800 people, so not too bad, but still not a great way to start your recruiting career, to just be like kind of yanked out of thin air and dropped somewhere else. So let's see. So a couple of other things that I'm going to go ahead and cover here. It is today, November 6th, is my 3-year anniversary of being out of the military, retired completely. I am celebrating that with a little bit here. This is Ardbeg Wee Beastie, guaranteed 5 years old. It is Insley single malt Scotch whiskey. My father-in-law got this for me. He's great. He knows I don't really like whiskey. The only whiskey that I really like is the kind of stuff where it feels like you're face down into a peat bog and really just huffing some dirt. I don't know why. I think it has to do with the fact that I destroyed my taste buds years ago with drinking and smoking, probably. I drink black coffee. I drink IPAs because I like them, not any other reason. I genuinely like them, and the only whiskey that I like is the kind that feels like I am sucking swamp water, basically. I don't know. I got weird tastes. I was a very picky eater when I was growing up. I think the Army did a lot of it to me. You join the Army and you get hungry and you don't have a whole lot of options sometimes. Sometimes you're going to eat that veggie omelet. I've never been that hungry. Never been that hungry. But yeah, so 3 years out of the military. Thank God for it, because I enjoy this a lot more. I enjoy smoking weed, but I enjoy not being part of the military. I enjoy having my freedom, but I will say that I do miss, there are parts of the Army that you miss. Nobody else will ever experience this other than what other soldiers have. Nobody knows what it's like to, and not even deployments. I have conversations with people who have deployments to different places in different years, and our experiences wildly vary, just completely different in a lot of different ways. And that's great. That's fine. But we can still bullshit with each other. We can still tell war stories. We can still commiserate over things. We probably know people who got hurt. We probably have lost people. We've probably gained people. There's a camaraderie there that doesn't really exist with people who aren't in the military. And, you know, you miss that when you're not in the Army. Thankfully, I've created a big enough community, and I kind of feel like part of the podcast was like, I just want to keep talking military stuff because I have turned into that middle-aged dad who wants to talk Army stuff, I guess. For a lot of dads and whatnot, it used to be you got into the Civil War or you got into World War II. I never really knew any dads that got really into Vietnam. Probably because a lot of the dads had to fight in Vietnam and they didn't really want to talk about that too much. But I'm, you know, now currently all of the current conflicts and everything, you know, not just Israel and Gaza, which is, again, the big one going on right now, but, you know, you've got a regional war it's about to set off in Central Africa. You've got Russia and Ukraine still going at it and could be drawing more people into it. There's a lot of conflicts going on, and there's a lot of war to assess and things to think about and things to get into. And while I'm never going to be like a let me break down the battle of the first battle of Fallujah or the liberation of Bakhmut like a guy would with Gettysburg or something, but maybe it's just not as well documented. I don't know. So here's to the Army, I guess. If you're still in, nothing but respect for you. I'm very glad that we're not self-flagellating veterans. Nate and I never wanted to be we're veterans and we're going to talk about how much we hate everything that we've done, and we're going to, just kind of beat ourselves up. And that's not useful. It's not useful, and it's not correct to pretend like we didn't have fun in the Army. We didn't do fun, cool things. I've shot a grenade launcher. Like, I'm sorry, that's cool as shit. I didn't shoot it at anybody. I shot it at derelict tanks and shit like that out in the range. But I have shot one, and that's pretty cool. And you get to do some cool things, and you get to go to cool places, and you get to meet cool people. But if you're still in, I have nothing but respect for you. I understand the reasons for staying in. I understand that, you're not, it's hard, and I'm glad that nowadays we don't have it as bad as it used to be. As bad as the 20-teens was, with how much people hated people that were in the military and people who, even like us, who were on the left. So we didn't really fit in to the leftist spaces online. And thankfully, at this point, most people have pretty much gotten over themselves. It has been months since anybody ever accused me of killing a baby. So I think we're doing pretty well these days. So it's, but again, I understand why people stay in, even if the politics don't necessarily line up with what's going on. Like, really at this point, you can be in the military. I don't know. I guess you could get sent to Syria, but in Syria, they're fighting ISIS. So that's a thumbs up. Like, fuck ISIS, it's okay to shoot those guys. But we don't have any, current, I'm not going to say it because somebody's going to correct me. I'm sure we're somewhere doing some fucked up shit somewhere, all the time, but we do not have the operations like we had Afghanistan, Iraq, where it's just like, this is a huge waste of time, waste of lives, and what we're doing is really shitty and terrible. They're not doing that stuff in such a large quantity anymore. So the politics and everything, it's whatever, man. Like, be in the Army if you want, be out of the Army if you want. I spent 20 years in, man, I can't shit talk anybody. I kept re-enlisting because they kept giving me money. Like, honestly, they could stay in for another 6 years, 1 weekend a month. We'll kick you $15,000. And that's, after taxes, it's not so bad. So, it's good stuff. So, as Jeb Bush, please clap, 3 years. I had I put it in my calendar. So I had to pop up today. It's like, oh, it's my 3-year anniversary. Because I'm terrible with anniversaries. Just ask my wife, who is also terrible with anniversaries. All right, so my final thing today, I'm not really going to do media, I think, today. Just because, like I said, we're rolling through a few things. And I think tomorrow I might record I'm recording with Carrie tomorrow. a bonus episode. I think we might do a Veterans Day one. We'll see. But Veterans Day is the 11th. Again, not a whole lot. I haven't really seen a whole lot of media or anything about it, which is fine. I don't want anybody to think like, here's Francis complaining that nobody's loving the veterans. No, it's fine. I get my free parking spot at Lowe's. I get my veterans parking spot at the weed store. I get 10% off at both for the rest of my life. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see if Lowe's continues to respect the veterans 40 years from now. I'm sure they will, as well as the weed store. But all of my weed stores, all the ones around us, have 10% off for veterans. So it's not too bad. And that's all I need. I don't need to go to Applebee's. I did the Applebee's thing once. One fucking time. Absolutely never again. My wife and I one time went around and tried to hit up a bunch of places, but like they're really crowded. The Applebee's thing is just, God, it was the Applebee's we went to was absolutely insane. It's like, here's like 4 different things that you can order. And because they were just making those things and you would order one and they just grab a plate of it and bring it out for you. And you know what? I'm not gonna shit talk anybody for doing nice things for veterans. As a veteran, I appreciate it. I always appreciate somebody saying, you know, here's a free thing for what you did. I'm not going to say that I deserve it, but I'm also not going to say, no, don't give me free thing for whatever reason. So I think the last time my wife and I went out for Veterans Day was maybe 2 years ago. And I think the biggest thing we got was like a bloomin' onion at Outback Steakhouse. So it's very funny how little people give a shit about it these days. And that's, again, it's fine. You shouldn't really give that much of a shit about it. It's for veterans. And I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff about parades or anything. And I just think it's very funny, like juxtaposed from, you know, from 5, 10, 15 to 20 years ago. You know, 20 years ago was 2003. I was not yet a veteran yet. I wasn't a veteran until 2004 when I went to Afghanistan. But we still obviously had troops that were going overseas. We're still within that first, like, you know, that fresh war smell. You know, is only there's only a year. I guess Iraq at this point had started because that was March of 2003. So technically, we've already shock and awed 20 years ago from this date. But the Veterans Day, you know, hullabaloo and hoopla and everything because everybody, you know, has to support the troops because we're fighting this unpopular war. We got to support the troops, and it's really not there anymore. It really hasn't been there for the last, you know, 5, 7, 10 years. I feel like it's just been progressively getting, and not like, you know, there's less things for everybody. It's just less of a big deal. And I like that because I feel like Veterans Day should be more for veterans with veterans, not necessarily everybody else coming out to pat us on the back. You know, I view Memorial Day kind of the same way. It's for us. And I'm not going to say don't barbecue on a 3-day and get shit-faced. Absolutely do that. But it's one of those things, it's for us to remember. Well, and look, Memorial Day, people not in the military lose people, obviously, through the military. So, but Veterans Day, I've always felt, you know, by veterans, for veterans, you know, a chance for us all to sit around and bullshit with each other. So that might be what I end up doing with Carrie, even though he's a coastie, you know, it kind of counts, but they're under Homeland Security. But if you flash the ID fast enough, the waitress at Applebee's will never notice, and you just yep, and then you're good. So happy Veterans Day to you and yours if you are veterans. If you're not a veteran, good choice. Today's reading is going to be from Military Intelligence. This came out May 1970. This is Volume 1, Number 1 that we have here. So this is part of this is one of those in the tiers. It doesn't really seem to be to the point where it has advertising, but it is very well laid out. It has comics in it that are actually submitted by GIs. Some of them put comics from Beetle Bailey in, which was very interesting because Beetle Bailey has been around as a comic for decades at this point. And apparently they did touch on a lot of, it was around during Vietnam. So they touched on a lot of the things, General Half-Track and Sarge and Beetle and dealing with all of the Vietnam kerfuffle. And when I don't mean the Vietnam War itself, I mean all of the people back at home who were shit-talking Vietnam and saying, I don't want to be drafted. Oh, you're going to draft me anyway. Well, guess what? I'm going to fuck all your shit up then. So this is the opening from the military intelligence. This is just the first one, kind of give you an idea of what is going on. This is called People's Armed Forces Day issue. Dear friends, this is the first issue of Military Intelligence, a combination monthly press service and newspaper published by the Military Research Group in Los Angeles and financed by Support Our Soldiers. Our idea is this. None of the GI papers or the people who write the articles for them have enough time to do research or to write continuing columns on subjects of increasing importance to the GI movement. What this growing movement requires is information or intelligence on the military. We want to reach a large number of GIs just coming into the GI movement and give organizers materials they can hand to people that will fully answer their questions and lead them to action to talk to and to make them organizers. We expect every month to have in-depth analytical articles on the following regular topics. Number 1, the real world, which we will relate to the military world to the outside in so-called real world, and give facts and information on the conditions of existence of the working men and women inside of the U.S. What is? We will offer short, GI-related definitions of the military-industrial complex, racism, fascism, socialism, etc. GI should write in requests for definitions. Problems of GI organizing. We will speak to the GI who wants to do something but doesn't know how or what. It will openly discuss internal problems of the people becoming organizers. Number 4, the chain of command. We'll speak to who the real enemy is and how civilians and military decisions are made by a tiny group of people, and will regularly prepare short biographies of some of these individuals. Side note, if you've been listening to the old ones, these are the lifer parts, the people who stick around and make the decisions. Number 5, the GI Bust Book is written by a lawyer and will eventually be a short pamphlet on which will answer day-to-day questions of the GI. Number 6, your next duty station. We'll survey all the places in the United States investments that need protection from the people, from Laos to Yale University, and from Bolivia to the New York Post Office. Obviously, this will be a continuing feature. Number 7, racism and the military. Will be both a way to discuss the different ways GIs can start to handle this problem. Letters from a congressional wastepaper basket. We'll do all of the above from a humorous perspective. Straight from the brass's mouth, we'll summarize their latest publications and newspapers so we know what they are thinking. And number 10, what's happening in the GI press. We'll briefly cover national news on the GI movement. So continuing. We'll try to concentrate on different problems in each issue so that while we focus on the connection between the military and the big businesses in this issue, the next month we will concentrate on racism. We'll also try to produce research on topics such as the psychology of basic training, the National Guard in you, the history of the Russian Red Army and the Chinese People's Liberation Army, a history on the military and labor struggles of the United States, and other topics. The whole idea is to serve the GI movement, which we cannot do unless you help. What do you need to know to do the job of GI organizing better? What research do you want done? What news items would you like to have? And what do you think of the features listed above? Please let us know what you think of this issue so we can make changes where necessary. Signed, the editorial board, Ken Cloak, Caroline Elias, Laura Kaplan, Art Aniston, Pan Emerson, and David Schulman. So this is the part and parcel for really all of these. This is really kind of what they all want to talk about, are these various organizing, chain of command, analyzing what the other side is saying. This is what a lot of these big magazines were doing. Military Intelligence started up in May 1970. So war had been going on for a while, but it's still there, and there's a lot that is not going great. This is really the big center, juicy part of the GI movement that's still happening. So this is when a lot of these are cropping up, and that's why I wanted to touch on this one. Also, I love that it's called Military Intelligence. Who doesn't love an oxymoron? So if we want to know a little bit of the humor, they mentioned the notes from a congressional waste paper basket. Dear Congressman, in the interest of national security, I'm not allowed to tell you where I am, but after 6 months here, I can tell you one thing. There are positively no American troops in Laos. The rest of the guys in the company haven't seen any either. Yours truly, PFC Curtis Wilson. Dear Congressman, I have a question. How come I'm in Vietnam and you're in Miami? Warned regards, Curious. And it has little excerpts in here as well. It had a little thing from Smedley Butler. This one, though, is from a General David M. Shoup, who's a retired commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps. He says, I want to tell you, and I don't think the whole of Southeast Asia, as related to the present and future safety of freedom for the people of this country, is worth the life or limb of a single American. I believe that if we had and would keep our dirty, bloody, dollar-crooked fingers out of the business of these nations so full of depressed, exploited people, they will arrive at a solution of their own. If they design, that they design and that they want. That they will fight and they will work for. If unfortunately their revolution must be of the violent types because the haves refuse to share with the have-nots by any peaceful method, at least what they get will be their own and not the American type, which they don't want and above all don't want crammed down their throats by Americans. Don't let yourself get too shook up by the advertised encroachment of communism. Help people get things and communism will strangle itself by its own umbilical cord, which I think that's a very interesting thing, because there is, as much as boomers on Facebook don't want to talk about it, there is a difference between socialism and communism. And yeah, the idea of communism is great if you trust your government, which I think every American should know better than that. So at least with socialism, we get a lot more trade unions that we can put our faith into. And I don't know, maybe when they get big enough, they're not going to be as good. But I do like that he is saying, like, don't worry about communism, not because communism is good, but because communism will fuck itself over if you simply give people what they want. And yes, like, you want to kill the communist movement in America? Give everybody health care and make sure everybody has a place to sleep. Now, some of you might say, but that's communism. It's not. That's not communism. Giving people, a place to sleep and food to eat and medical care that they need is a thing that I would argue is the point of government. And if you do not have those things, I do not understand why you are doing a government. So, I'm going to do more of these a little bit later on. I just wanted to touch on this one because I just found this one, and there's a lot of issues that we can go through. So, like I said, this is Military Intelligence, 1970. Already quoting Smedley Butler, three pages in, but we got another guy too that we're talking about. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Another news episode down in the bag. I hope that you guys liked it. A little bit different this week, but it's a little bit different of a day, I think. Beginning in November. It's actually, you know what? It's actually also the 7-year anniversary of the podcast. Shit, a lot of anniversaries. See, I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at anniversaries. So, but speaking of, for all of that stuff, so if you have been waiting for the This Machine Kills Fascists patch to come back into play, glad to tell you that it is, but these are a little bit different. I'm experimenting with adhesive back. So these are like a sticker, but a stronger, like not, just like a paper sticker or something. So it can be put onto anything. It's just fabric thing, just slap it on there. And it'll stick to anything. You don't have to worry about Velcro. I've always been going back and forth about like what to put on the back of it. Some people like one thing, some people like another. With this, if it comes down to it, you can get your own Velcro to put onto it if you really want Velcro, but also it allows anybody else to, however else they want to put it on there. If you want to sew it on there, you can just leave the paper on there. Or if you just want to slap it onto something, it's got that great, it's an embroidered patch rather than being just a sticker. But we do have this as a sticker as well. So as you can see, I have it adorning my body armor that fell off the back of an army truck, and my my PMags, which the Army would never give to me, a lowly reservist. So some things you got to pay for yourself, some things you get for free. We'll see. If it was me, it wouldn't be in UCP, but it came for free. But Those are in the store. I've got a lot of other stickers and stuff in the store too. It's a big month. So get your stuff in now because again, I'm going to be out for about 10 days. That means nobody's going to be shipping stuff out. So I will put up reminders and I'll say, hey, look, the shipping's going to be, you go on there, shipping's going to be late. I will get to it as soon as I get home. But, and then when I get home, then it's going to be like Thanksgiving's going to be coming. So I apologize, but you got to get the stuff now if you do want to get it coming in because some of these things are going to sell out. Now these aren't going to sell out, but what I will probably end up selling out are going to be these. So I have started to do a curated bag of Soviet pins. The blind bags are fine and they're fun and everything, but I've noticed that when I find interesting pins and I post them, people say, oh, I like that one. I would like that pin. So the blind bags are still fun, and if you just want to get a bag of pins, you can. There'll be random pins. They'll all be different. I'm not going to throw in repeats or anything, and if you order multiple ones, you're not going to get, I make sure that there's not repeats in them. Very rarely are there a lot of repeats. There's a lot of Lenin heads, but outside of that, everything is fairly unique. Like I see it once, and I don't really see it again. And I've seen literally thousands of pins at this point. Like I have sold more. I have moved out of the store more than like probably 6,000 Cold War pins, and still going strong. So we're just kind of changing it up a little bit. So these are in the store. There are various collections. This is one of the aviation collections. I also have what I call my horse collection. Just dudes on horses and a lenticular pen. So you move it back and forth and it changes the images. So I have been creating these. I'm going to create a whole bunch of them before I go on vacation, go travel for work, so that it's nice and full. If the blind bags I think I have them on sale for $8, and they might just stay there because I like to move those out so that I have an excuse to buy more pins so I can find stuff like this. I've got a bunch of like cool space pins, helicopter ones, artillery, outdoorsy things, ones that just have frogs on it. There's a lot of frogs, a lot of bats too. I've seen a lot of bats. So, I'm gonna throw up a lot of different options out there. So those are also in the store. If you hover over the shop, there's going to be a thing that says curated pins, and that's where all those collections are going to be. And again, those are just one a piece. I'm showing you what's going to be in the bag, and I cannot recreate it again because I have no idea when I'm going to see these pins again, if I ever do. Although I think that top right one, I think I have seen a few times. But other than that, lenticular pins, those are they're not rare. I see plenty of them, but they're certainly not the lion's share of the pins that I get in. So check those out. There's also a lot more stickers in. The Carlton Gustav stickers should be up with the penny farthing ops. Those are going to have patches coming in as well with those sticky backs too. So take a look. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be in there. And I'm going to have things that are going to be for our Patreon, because in December I'm going to be sending out the care package, and it's got some Christmas themed stuff in it. One of them is Santa Claus and his helper elf in the sled with a Davy Crockett in the back. So I turned it into a fucking technical. Of course I did. Of fucking course I did. And then put my favorite thing in the back of it, a low yield nuclear device that would absolutely have killed the people shooting it if they ever had to shoot it in combat. So, look for all of that. That's at the $10 level, and those are the only people who are going to get it. It's not going to go into the store. At all. I bought a limited amount of them. I'm going to push them as hard as I can in the store, or I'm sorry, for the care package. If I have ones left over, I might give them away for free. That's if I have some left over. I can't guarantee it. So patreon.com, hell of a way to die. $10 tier is what you're going to be looking for. That's the care package. Those go out like 3 or 4 of those go out a year. There's always stickers and patches, and sometimes I throw leftover Soviet pins in there because I'm trying to get rid of some stuff. So here, you guys have some pins, and so I can order some more shit, and I can continue this insane obsession I have of weird enamel pins from the Cold War era. So all of that, links are down below. I want to thank you guys for watching, for listening, and for however you're consuming this. I really do appreciate it. As somebody who suddenly needs a new furnace, please go to the store. Please join on to the Patreon. And Nate, as a person who has a new child, we're all needing a little dollars. So feel free to shuffle those on over to us. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.